Barack Obama is the worst president in history. And my generation will inherit a weakened country. Drug cartels in Mexico, tax cartels in D.C. What's happened to America? I love Arizona. I was raised right. Somebody has to go to Washington and knock the hell out of the place.
Dan Quayle was the worst vice president in history. He thought that Murphy Brown caused the LA riots. He thought that you could breathe on Mars and didn't know that he was living in the 20th century. And intelligence is a hereditary trait.
That the second ad, of course, a parody from the folks at Second City, keeping us entertained. Lots of Republicans.
Might get a little potato on his face over in the flap over that, Rick. We'll see. Well, joining us now is the host of ABC News This Week, Christiane Amanpour. Christiane, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you both.
I want to start off by asking you about Iraq.
Yep.
And this month, at the end of the month, U.S. combat troops are expected to pull out of Iraq. But we heard this week from an Iraqi general who said that U.S. troops could be there through 2020.
Well, let's put the real story on that. Look, it is true. U.S. troops could be there beyond 2011, but it won't be up to the U.S. to propose that because, President Obama is committed to bringing out all troops by the end of 2011. Right. But it might be the Iraqi government who asks for a certain presence of U.S. troops to remain, not in a combat formation, but in a training formation. I interviewed General Odierno, the top commander of U.S. forces, last Sunday on the program. But before that, I talked to a lot of military officials, former ones, current ones, a lot of diplomats and political types on this issue. And the bottom line is that they told me nobody believes that there will be no U.S. forces in Iraq at the end of 2011 because it's right, they are not fully ready to stand up. They're making a lot of progress, we're told, on being able to fight the insurgency within their borders. But to become a fully formed Iraqi army that can defend their borders from outside forces and the like, as a normal country would want, they need more training and more time. So there's a possibility that there may be some kind of agreement between the two, but it wouldn't be as a war-fighting force.
Right, it would look a little different, although that time frame, I think it would be stark for a lot of folks to contemplate now. Big story that's coming up on your program this week is the economy.
Yes.
And I know you've got a couple of interesting guests on this, Governor Corzine and Senator Corker, among others. What to you is the critical question moving forward? There's so much angst out there among the American public.
For me, looking in, you hear all the time that things are getting better, that we're pulling out of the recession, and yet you see people still really worried, the American people worried. You see the stark figures, you see the jobless figures, which are staying around 9.5%. You see all the figures on houses, you see the stock market this week. All of these things talk about a lack of confidence. So for us looking in, the question really is, how do you really take advantage of pulling out of this recession, avoid it being a double dip, and try to bring some consumer confidence? How do you, as a long-term project, address unemployment? Right now, the International Labour Organization has said that global youth unemployment has hit an all-time high, and this is really something to think about because it is about the next generation, and we really do need to explore what happens, whether this high level of unemployment is here to stay, what it does to the American dream, to American entrepreneurial spirit, to the fate of the next generation. And as many people tell me, of course, the American dream is about the next generation doing better than us, than the parents' generation. And will that be possible?
That's a question, sure.
It is. Yeah. And real quickly, want to ask you before you leave, I know you focused a little bit on your program about the flooding in Pakistan. Horrible disaster. But I want to ask you, this week the U.S. sent a significant amount of aid. Is that really going to have an impact on how Pakistanis view Americans?
It's vital, both because the United States remains the only military that can provide the kind of logistic support that all of these humanitarian disasters. That's why you see the Americans wanted so often around the world for major heavy lift, for all that kind of logistical support. And the Secretary of Defense has upped that support this week. Beyond a humanitarian, which is very, very grave, there is the strategic also. It's a big ally. It's fighting in the terrorism in Pakistan, but also U.S. needs it to help in Afghanistan. And beyond that, American support in these kinds of disasters can show the people on the ground that actually America can win our hearts and minds and can actually make a real positive contribution. And we're seeing those results play out in areas where the US has gone with aid. And, you know, we saw that in the tsunami as well back in 2004, 2005. So that's a very real side benefit of the obvious humanitarian necessity of helping these people.
And this is a huge scale disaster. It's hard to even contemplate the scale.
Several times the size of Haiti.
Yeah.
The fact that so much of their farmland, of their harvest, of their grain and this has been destroyed, and who knows what's going to happen. These are poor people, and in the mix also are the militant groups, the hardline groups who are just sort of rushing in also with aid. And there's also, as I say, a battle for hearts and minds, not just about saving people's lives.
Right, and we're part of that battle right now. Christiane Amanpour, the host of This Week, sounds like an interesting program as always. You're third. This is great.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Don't forget to check out Christiane on Sunday. Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, the ranking member of the Banking Committee, Laura Tyson of the President's Economic Recovery Board, and John Corzine, a former governor of New Jersey who knows a lot about the economy. Sounds like a great program as always.
Good show.
That does it for this edition of Top Line. You can click us again on Monday, and in the meantime, it's twitter.com/Rick Klein, twitter.com/Devin Dwyer, twitter.com/C Amanpour. You've got us covered. Devin, great debut. Well done,
Thanks,
sir.
Rick. Good to be here.
Appreciate it. Check out his series, Immigration Reform, 10 parts. Wow.